Ayatollah Ali Khamenei arrives for prayers in Tehran to celebrate the end of the holy month of Ramadan. In his speech, a clear message to the US.
The enmity from the US and Israel has always been there. They threaten to attack us, which we don't think is very likely. But if they do commit any mischief, they will surely receive a strong reciprocal blow.
It was Iran's supreme leader's response to US President Donald Trump's demands for a new nuclear deal between the two countries. Trump recently repeated his threat that Iran would be bombed if it does not accept his offer for talks. He has also threatened to impose new economic penalties on the country.
We're going to make a decision on secondary tariffs on Iran based on whether or not they're going to make a deal. If they're going to make a deal, then we're never going to put secondary tariffs in. We're going to hope they have a great, long, successful life as a country. But we'll see what happens.
And the reality is the Russian, Iranian, North Korean triangle is getting much stronger. The Iranians and the North Koreans have been cooperating on ballistic missiles and potentially nuclear technicians for about 15 years. And the RGC has said they want to strengthen ties with Pyongyang, and Russia has a comprehensive strategic partnership now with Iran that was renewed for another 20 years. That will also deepen military cooperation, especially conventional military cooperation, like the Iranian Air Force and potentially Iranian air defenses. So Iran may be isolated from the West, but it does have other options with potent military technologies that maybe the Iranians don't already have.
But he's not asking Iran to begin talks. He's threatening them. Let me quote what he said last week. If they don't make a deal, there will be bombing. It will be bombing the likes of which they have never seen before. So Trump is threatening to bomb Iran. And it's not just empty talk. The US has moved B-2 bomber planes to Diego Garcia. Take a look at these satellite pictures. You can see at least 6 B-2 bombers. These can carry the heaviest American bombs and nukes. Weapons that can strike targets deep underground. Targets like Iranian nuclear sites. And now look at the location. Diego Garcia is a joint US-UK base in the Indian Ocean. It's around 3,900 kilometers from Iran. Trump is also moving warships to this region. One aircraft carrier is already in West Asia. That's the USS Harry S. Truman. Now Trump is sending a second carrier, the USS Carl Vinson. That's a lot of air and maritime power near Iran. So clearly, Donald Trump is sending a message. Come to the talking table or prepare for the worst. And how is Iran responding? Their supreme leader gave a speech on Monday. He vowed to hit back in kind.
Bombers stationed at Diego Garcia and warships converging on West Asia. Washington is flexing its military muscle. Tehran vows retaliation, setting the stage for a dangerous showdown in an already volatile region.
But it appears that there's been quite a major buildup of American forces in the region targeting or potentially targeting the Houthis and possibly even Iran. Tell us about it.
Well, thanks for having me. It looks like Donald Trump means business with regard to the Iranian nuclear program. I think he wants a negotiation if he can get it, and he wants to negotiate from strength. The first thing he's doing is cutting down the sole remaining proxy of the Iranians that is completely intact after the Iranian-Israel war. That's the Houthis. He's taking them down. You could say, James, a year from now, we might say that this was the opening move in a negotiation between Tehran and Washington, or we might say it was the opening move in a war between the United States and Iran to end Iran's nuclear program. Trump is putting himself in a position to have options, whether to go ahead with the negotiation, if he can bring the Iranians to the table, or to go ahead with military action.
In his first term, the US withdrew from a landmark agreement on Iran's nuclear program and reimposed sanctions on Tehran.
This certification.
Western countries have long accused Iran of pursuing a nuclear weapon and using proxy forces to expand its influence in the region, charges Tehran rejects. Iran has said it will not engage in direct talks under the threat of military action, but it has left a door open for talks through intermediaries.
In a rebuke to a recent letter from President Trump, Iran's president has refused direct nuclear talks with the U.S. During his first term, Trump unilaterally pulled the U.S. out of Iran's 2018 nuclear deal that President Obama and other Western leaders helped put together. As President Trump wades into foreign policy around the world, there's more reaction to Vice President J.D. Vance's visit Friday to a U.S. military base in remote Greenland.
Greenland really matters for the security of the United States.
Mark Warner, the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, criticized President Trump for not ruling out using force to secure Greenland, which is a territory of NATO ally Denmark.
Legitimate interest and stronger ties with Greenland? Absolutely. The idea that we are going to threaten a military invasion against a population that, at least everything I've read, overwhelmingly the people in Greenland don't want to become part of America.
A top Iranian official made that clear. He said, if you attack us, we will build a nuclear bomb.
We have said that there is a fatwa. We are working under the supervision of the IAEA and we won't move toward a nuclear weapon. But if you make a mistake regarding Iran's nuclear issue, you'll force Iran to take that path because it has to defend itself.
How close is Iran to making a bomb? They could produce weapons-grade uranium in 2 weeks. After that, it's just a matter of months. So Iran is very close to making a nuclear bomb, which is why Donald Trump is suddenly keen on a deal. Iran too is open to restarting talks, but they have certain concerns. For starters, Iran wants the US to lift sanctions. Only then will they engage in direct talks. Secondly, there is a trust deficit. Iran went through all of this with Barack Obama. When he was president, Iran signed a nuclear deal and they kept their end of the agreement. It was America that walked out under Donald Trump. So naturally, the Iranians are a bit apprehensive. They feel that Trump cannot be trusted. The question is, how do you break this deadlock? You need a trusted mediator, someone who Trump and the Iranians can rely on.
Well, I mean, that's the open question. I mean, we've seen one of the senior IRGC brigadier generals over the past 24 hours warn that America is a glass house and shouldn't throw stones because America's got 50,000 troops in the region and 10 bases that could be attacked. But the reality is the Iranians have been sometimes successful in attacking American bases in Iraq and Syria, but they've also proven themselves to be quite limited in the scope of that retaliation, as we've seen in response to the Israeli strikes that occurred in October of last year. The Iranians threatened an apocalyptic response, but ultimately fired off a large portion of their missile arsenal and really didn't hit that many high-value targets.
Trump is putting himself in a position to have options, whether to go ahead with the negotiation, if he can bring the Iranians to the table, or to go ahead with military action.
Well, there's already been some military action against the Houthis, and I've seen reports just in the last few hours that Iran is starting to pull some of its forces out of the Houthi areas. Does that suggest that Iran kind of realizes that if the U.S. is putting in bombers in Diego Garcia and moving ships into the region and all of the other positioning that's happening there, this might not end well for their regime?
All the signaling, as far as I can tell, all of the signaling says that the Americans really mean business. And Donald Trump, of course, reversed the rules of engagement that the Biden administration had imposed, which allowed the United States to respond to Houthi attacks only defensively, only against missiles that were being put on launchers, and only then against the missiles themselves, not against any leadership targets or critical military infrastructure. So I think he's sending a message of seriousness. The question is, are the Iranians going to hear it? And that is really hard to tell.
Well, tell me, too, about the island of Diego Garcia and some of the positioning that's been done there. Bombers, strategic bombers, and as Trump might say, like you've never seen before on those islands here.
Well, I had talks with senior Israeli officials recently, and they told me something very interesting, which is that that they believe that Donald Trump shares their strategic goal, that is to eliminate the Iranian nuclear program, also the Iranian threat, ballistic missile and proxy threat around the region. They think there's a disagreement between Jerusalem and Washington about the tactics. Trump wants to give it more time. He wants to try to get to a negotiation with the Iranians, but the Israelis believe he's sincere about this strategic goal. And it's a different attitude than they had toward the Biden administration, where they believe that the Biden administration said we agree on the strategic goal, but we disagree on tactics, but they didn't really. That was just a kind of papering, a kind of nice way to paper over the differences. I think they believe that Trump is really serious about this, and they believe that Trump wants it for the American interest, not for Israel. So they're rather confident about that.